Module 2. Hi, Joe Cerrone.
Hey, Alan Rosen.
We're going to take a look at policy and procedures for Module 2, Chapter 2. It maps to the textbook. And so Chapter 2 learning objectives are to be able to work with the units, be able to work with lines, circles, and arcs, methods of object selection. And we've created a video for you. So if you don't make it to the meetings on Zoom, you can watch the videos here. And so here's the first video. Design. Hi, Joe Cerrone. Today we're going to look at Chapter 2, setting up an introduction to AutoCAD. And again, so we'll have the bouncing yellow ball that we'll go through, and what we'll do is we'll show how to do the exercises for Chapter 2. And Chapter 2 is where we first start getting into drawing. And as we run these Zoom meetings and we get used to the content, we can use these Zoom meetings for student support. But in getting everybody started, we'll start off by showing students how to work with the CAD software and the drawing assignment for that. And so we go through and demonstrate things like how to create different geometry using CAD. All right, and so the Chapter 2 recording is there, and it outlines the textbook. And then here's how to do the assignment. And so here we'll create a video for how to do the lab assignments, and then I'll demonstrate that. So in this exercise, basically, I'm showing the textbook, and then I'll demonstrate drafting techniques, how to download and start a new drawing. And actually, we just start a new drawing in this. Create this different geometry. And we can certainly show you that information during the Zoom meetings, but we wanted everything to be recorded for those people who don't attend the Zoom meetings. And so we have a recording, and in this recording, we basically show just how to create these general shapes. We also show how to turn in the drawing assignment. And so once you have created those shapes, you'll save the file, go to D2L, and then you'll submit those by adding a file and having that information communicated to us, where we will grade that and give you feedback. We also have 2 bonus drawings, and the bonus drawings are taken from the previous textbook. And there are excellent ways to get better with AutoCAD. Bonus drawings are not required. The only drawing that's required is this Chapter 2 drawing exercise. And then these bonus drawings are located here, and where you can download the file and open it. And it's an excellent way to learn how to use AutoCAD. And so here we are in the AutoCAD interface. And we also have a video on how to work with this. And as we look at the interface, we'll go through things like draw commands. Things like working with the line command, working with ellipsis, modify commands, move, copy, rotate. We'll also look at how the interface is set up. And so there's a lot of buttons on AutoCAD. And so we start off with basics like using grid and snap. And so here's my grid, and here's my snap. And we can get those grid and snap settings right here next to the paper airplane if we have the menu bar on. And what you can do is you can hide the menu bar, or you can show the menu bar. And then once the menu bar is on, we like to use it because there's different ways to input the commands. And by using the menu bar, we can go and use words like drafting settings, snap and grid, and make sure that those are enabled. And so we'll have snap and grid on. The snap is set up at 1/8 of an inch and the grid is set up at 1/4 of an inch. And then these other settings, we're going to disable. We don't need polar tracking. We don't need OSnap or any of these other ones. And so we just want snap and grid on. And there's a lot of other buttons here, but essentially we're just going to be working with a snap increment and a grid increment. And then once we have that, we talk a little bit about navigation. When I move the mouse, you can see the cursor moves. And if I push the wheel on the mouse, we can pan. If I turn the wheel on the mouse, I can zoom. And so the textbook goes through this as well, but here's some of our interface techniques where we can pan. And then if we wanted to zoom, the best way to zoom is to just turn the wheel on the mouse. And so you're constantly pushing the wheel and turning the wheel. And then as we draw, we'll use these different CAD commands. And so, for example, if we wanted to draw a line, we can click on the line command. And if you hover over the command, it will go into content sensitive help. So we can draw a line. You'll notice that the cursor snaps. When you're done and you want to pick up the pencil, you can hit the escape key or you can right click and say enter. As we go through and continue to work with these commands, these are all in the video. And so there's a video that shows how to work with it. This is what's called the command line. And I can access commands here. So I can use commands and type them in. So for example, if I hit escape, that will cancel. If I say line, it will give me all the line commands and all the commands that begin with L. It's content sensitive. And so there's a lot of moving parts here, but we'll simplify it to a point that it makes it easy to understand, or at least a little easier as we continue working with it. The other thing we want to do is down here in the customization, there's this little triple bar here. You want to turn on all of these check marks. And so we want all of these things to be on. And we'll go through them as we go and learn more about AutoCAD. I'm not so sure I need, but we'll put them on. So with everything on, except the constraints, and I don't like them either. It's too mechanical. We can use this as a tool. And down here at the bottom, we'll have things like grid, snap. And another one that's very helpful is line weights. When the line weights are off, it's a little more difficult to read than when the line weights are on. And so by setting up the user interface and making sure line weights is on, you can see the line weights of the drawing. And then as we go through and we create these different drawings, like with the snap, with the donut command, we can set this up so that it asks us for the inside diameter and then the outside diameter. And as we go through, we can use our template to kind of place these on the drawing. And let me redo that. My size of the circles in this grid template, each grid mark is 1/4 of an inch. And so this would be a 1/2 inch. And so we can come over here. And so the inside diameter is 0 and the outside will be 1/2 or 1/2 an inch. And then we can place those on the drawing as appropriate. And again, you know, there are videos for this. And so if you are able to work with this straight from the videos, that's great. If you need more assistance in attending these Zoom meetings. And so we'll create these different geometries and these different shapes. If I wanted to create a ellipse, we can use the center ellipse. And again, these are in the videotapes and the modules. You make a mistake, you can click on it with a grip, click on the blue grip, and you can kind of resize it, hit escape to clear off the grips, line command, hover, click. And then as you draw, what you'll see is that the computer will reflect back information. Right click, enter, pan, left click mouse button. And you can also use zoom commands like pan, almost like driving an Xbox, where as you're panning and zooming, you can use your mouse for that. And the way you do that is you push the wheel of the mouse to pan, or you turn the wheel of the mouse to zoom. And this is a real benefit compared to drawing with a pencil, because you can make things as big as you want. Right mouse click, enter. You repeat the line command and then draw these other squares. There are a lot of techniques for creating drawings. And so as we go through, I'm going to hit the escape key here. We're demonstrating basic drafting using graph paper. As you can see, the cursor snapping to the grid, which we programmed in our drafting settings.
Joe,
Mm-hmm.
when you move your mouse, it has numbers comes up in a blue box, highlighted blue box, and all this stuff. What does it mean?
Well, that's basically telling us how long that line is. And so as we draw these lines, like this one is 1 1/4 inches. And so if we were to count these grid spaces, what we'd see is that it was 5 grid spaces at 1/4 of an inch each.
What it says is it's 90 degrees, and then it says another number. What does that mean?
Well, the way that the interface is set up, it works in a Cartesian coordinate system where the x-axis is horizontal and the y-axis is vertical. So as we draw things, you can see the measurements in the angles.
So 0 is at 3 o'clock?
You're right. So
Right.
0 and 360 would be at 3 o'clock, and then 12 o'clock is 90 degrees.
Oh, so it's counterclockwise.
Yes, sir.
Oh, okay.
So once you have the drawing created, you can put your name on it. So you can come down here, we can use multi-line text, and we can turn that, we can add that information. Green check mark. And then as we progress through the course, what we'll do is we'll save that. We'll say save as.
Would this be a nice idea to have a thumb drive for them to use, just for a backup maybe?
That's what I do. I like to put my drawings on my USB. And so I'll use this Samsung, and I'll have all my courses laid out in folders. And so I'll save this. And this one is the bonus drawing. So I'll save it with my initials, and then I'll show how to turn that in. And then we're going to end the meeting at 11:30, and we'll end the recording. And if anybody wants to stick around and ask more questions, we can do that. So anyway, save the drawing. You can save it on a USB, or you can save it a number of different places. Once you have that drawing saved, we'll go back into D2L, and then we'll show how to submit that. So to submit your drawing, you go to the Assignments tab. And in the Assignments tab, you'll turn in that drawing in the appropriate module. And so this is in Chapter 2. And what you would do here is to take a look at the rubric. And so this is how students will be graded. They'll be graded on a 30-point scale for completeness. Exceeds the standard, the drawing is complete, including the title block information. So we want to make sure that you put the date and your name onto the drawings. Graphically accurate. uses proper design rules. So every week as we introduce new concepts and learning objectives, we will give you feedback on how that is working. Dimensioning for drawings that have dimensions, and then use of these different CAD features. So the drawing is worth 30 points, and you can go and say, add a file, and then you can go and locate your file. We put this one on a USB. Once you've located, you select the add button, and you'll see it shows up. And then if you have any questions or comments,
Also, Joe, can't they use it for, if they not too sure if they have it done correctly, could they put it in there and say, do not grade it and look at it for me? Give me some hints or help me with it?
definitely, and we would encourage that. And so you can use this as a way to share files and communicate any questions that you have, which we could then work with you either here in person if you decide to come in or on Zoom. You can submit that file. And then once it's submitted, you'll get a little orange balloon here that tells you, hey, the file was submitted successfully. You can submit more than one file. The way that we have the course set up is that we have due dates, and you want to turn the drawings in when they're due. And so the module 2 is due September 8th. And so we give you enough time that if you have any difficulty with getting your software up and running, or you need any additional support, you can get that.
Hey, Joe, one more thing, I have a question for you. Can you go back to AutoCAD, please?
Mhm.
And on the bottom, left-hand corner is model and general design. What are those tabs?
Well, I was going to save that for next week, but since you asked, once you work with these drawings in model space, we have them set up for you with this tab here for layout mode. And so we will start to use these templates with the title block information on it. And you can, if you click on the general design tab, then you can double click and add your name and that information onto the drawings. But for right now, we are mostly concerned with just the basic CAD drawing skills. And so here's our first module, bonus exercise number 1. Our second one is located in the content area. And you just download it. Here's your bonus 2, and here's your video instructions. And so we can say download and open. And so here's another example. And this is getting a little bit more so that we can start working with furniture and things like that, where we can go through. And again, there's a videotape where we can go through and we can work with our grid and our snap. And we'll use the rectangle command here. Again, same technique, create the drawing, save it, and then turn it into the assignments folder. All righty, as we're getting to the end of our time for our lecture, just a quick review. For the first week of class, read through chapter 1 and chapter 2 as located in the outline of topics. And so here's the course syllabus, and here's our outline of topics. We're covering chapter 1 and chapter 2 this week. And then there is a pretest and a quiz in the quizzes and assignments. And so to see that everybody is understanding our learning objectives, you can go to quizzes and exams. And here is the module 1 quiz. And so students can select that. And these are basically questions from the end of the chapter. It's not showing it because it's not set up as a student. If I take a look at it as a teacher. And so complete the questions from the end of chapter 1. The quizzes will be worth 10 points. And so drawing assignments are 30, quizzes are 10. And then things like, what are the advantages of using AutoCAD instead of drafting by hand? Why do you always draw in full scale? And these are all in the textbook. We'll be happy to help you with those, but that will be the quiz to assess your knowledge of the chapter 1 information. And just like that, we'll have the same quizzes every week as in the outline of topics. All righty, Al, I think I'm going to start to wrap this meeting up. Is there anything else that we want to cover before I end this Zoom meeting?
If you'd like to go down a little further down, please, just a little bit more, stop right there. We also have a little note over there. Our students cannot, if our students cannot learn the way we're teaching, we must teach the way our students can learn. In other words, we're here for our students. We're here to have you work, learn, and etc. All you have to do is let us know if we're going too fast, too slow, whatever the case may be. Let us know.
All righty, thanks, Al. All right, with that, I'm going to stop the recording and then we'll open the meeting up for anybody who has any questions.